I'm at the 74th annual Oklahoma City Powwow. It's a celebration, reaffirmation, full of colour, culture, kai, whanaungatanga. Bit of competition too. Reminds me of home.
I'm a grass dancer, and he's a fancy dancer, and we like to go out there in the arena and just dance.
As with Pawhuska, enormous effort goes into both performance and regalia. And the women, stunning.
I think it's fun. I really like my tribe, and I like my community and the people that I surround myself with, and I love powwows.
The backdrop to this is familiar. Dispossession of land, ongoing colonisation and determined resistance. And when it comes to politics, that's familiar too.
Oh, I think people are really nervous. Obviously, there's a lot of political, cultural tension right now in the country. I think the stakes are really high.
I'm oftentimes the only Indigenous person and the only Indigenous affairs reporter in the room when I'm going to hearings in Washington, D.C., when I'm at congressional hearings.
This country has a great culture of just exploiting and fleecing every one of its citizens. Black, white, brown, Puerto Rican, and Asian. We are all exploited in this country in some way, one way or another.
3 journalists, 3 Native American voices in a political landscape that has largely ignored Indigenous peoples, particularly around election time.
The goal for me is for people to understand that, like, whatever and whomever is elected, all of our basic functions of our life is going to be impacted in one way or another.
I believe we've got to go into this with our eyes wide open. I do believe that Mr. Trump is our best bet to save democracy.
Donald Trump, the one-term president, twice impeached convicted felon, whose sentencing has just been delayed until after the election. It looked like he would coast to victory until President Joe Biden pulled out of the race in favour of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you.
CNC, turn out for what?
Kamala Harris turned the tables. The Democrats have closed the gap, but not here in Oklahoma, the reddest of Republican states, as I found out when I hit the streets of Pawhuska.
Vote for Trump because he is our best defense against what we're fighting.
What are you fighting?
Socialism, communism, and the deep state.
For outsiders like me, it's a complicated setup. 52 states and just 2 main parties. Complicated for Native Americans too.
As a Native person, you have your tribal government, and you have your kinship family, the county government, the state government, the local government, the federal government. So we exist with all of these structures. So not only, oddly enough, are we not presented in it, we would be the ones that would have the most to say about it.
Of course, Native Americans were here long before there was a USA, but legally they've only been citizens of their own country for the last 100 years. As for voting...
But one of the real issues with voter engagement and voter turnout is there are a lot of laws in place to keep Native people from voting.
You're a dual citizen, essentially. We have this very unique relationship with the United States federal government where we are distinctly a racial category, but we're also have a different political status as well.
But for the Native person who doesn't live on the tribe or who may do, they still care about schools, they care about feeling safe, clean access to water, and the liberties granted in this country that are allow us to be free.
Invisible, silenced, and erased. Many Native people in America say that's how they've felt for decades. This year, those feelings were compounded on election night when a news outlet showed this graphic lumping anyone who was not Black or Hispanic into one category.
In 2020, CNN categorized Native American voters as, quote, something else.
Native Americans are tired of being erased. We are more than still here, right? We are thriving. We are contributing members to society.
American Indians, including journalists, are fighting across multiple political fronts, from inside tribal jurisdictions to the national stage.
I would say that Indigenous peoples here in the United States are among the most underserved, stereotyped demographics in the country.
That's why I think a lot of Natives are apathetic to voting, because they don't do much to help us. I mean, I know a lot of people in America don't think that we deserve to have the help, but they tend to forget that this is our home. This is where we're from, and we're allowed to exist here. You know, we're allowed to exist, we're allowed to have our sovereignty. They need to uphold our treaties, they need to respect us. And that's basically all any of us want, is just respect.
Away from the powwow, Native affairs are peripheral to the mainly white voters I spoke to in Oklahoma. For them, too, the upcoming presidential election is hugely consequential. How are you feeling?
The country's going to be devastated if Trump wins. It's going to ruin the country.
Always been Trump.
Because?
I'm a true diehard American and Republican.
I believe that President Trump is the man that America needs.
It's kind of a difficult thing to make a decision about because, well, really, I don't know much about what Kamala's wanting to do with anything.
No, Mr. Trump does not walk on water. But I believe the man has a fair view of the world's order.
Is it difficult to talk politics in the States?
There's family members losing family members here over two people we don't even know. I've never met Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, yet I got a little brother that I don't even talk to because I don't share the same view. I mean, over the last few years, it's gotten to be a hot button topic.
When it comes to tribal nations, not all are on the same page. For example, some support mining and drilling, others don't.
A lot of Indigenous people and Indigenous voters here in Oklahoma are Republicans and do support former President Donald Trump.
Now, let's talk about
Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is Cherokee and a conservative Republican. Only days ago, he described Kamala Harris as a San Francisco extremist. He also disagrees with a ceasefire in Gaza.
What ends wars is when one side clearly wins, not a ceasefire, not when someone simply decides that they're going to fight another day.
Please rise, ladies and gentlemen, as we retire the colors of the late JT Lubai.
The patriotism, veneration of the flag, and those who serve in the military. To me, it seems like Native Americans feel they aren't accorded that same level of respect.
I'm just a old Indian just trying to survive like everybody else.
They never bring up about Indians, or Native Americans. We're always in the back.
So what's the mood that you're feeling out there among Indigenous First Nations communities?
I like to tell people that when it comes to Indigenous issues here, it's very nonpartisan, but primarily across the nation, what we see is that Indigenous voters are more likely to vote Democrat.
Voters share concerns about healthcare, the environment and cost of living, but I decided to leave heartland America and head to Washington Square in New York. It felt like two different countries.
There are a lot of problems here in the United States, and I think that the focus should be primary here for our country, for the people living here, and not so much outsource. I think that America, we tend to always help other countries when we have a lot of problems here that need to be addressed.
In 2016 was the first time I was able to vote, and I did not vote because I would rather not vote than vote for idiots. And I feel the same way about this time around, but I think I'm just gonna vote because I'd rather not have another idiot.
So I'd rather have Kamala win, but I will say I do not like how Kamala and the Democratic Party, that their whole kind of spiel is let's defeat Donald Trump.
People should talk about abortion a lot. Like in Kansas, like they enshrined the right to abortion in their constitution. I think it happened in a bunch of other like purple or red states. So I think that's something they should focus on.
I think obviously one that's like kind of an elephant in the room, but I think both sides of the party definitely need to work on for sure is the genocide that's occurring in Palestine at the moment.
For now, it's too close to call. Both leaders are hitting the campaign trail hard, both trying to win over important independent and swing voters. Election day is set for November 5, but the result could well end up disputed again. Whatever the outcome, it'll be felt well beyond American shores. Do Americans even consider the impact of the elections on the rest of us? Because it's quite profound.
Yeah, I think that people are pretty aware of how what happens here could have really negative effects for people in another country.
Will it make any difference who actually gets elected?
I think it would. For Indian country, I think it would, for certainly.
Okay, America has a clear choice here. You know, you can go back to 2016 or you can go to whatever the platform may become. And this is the part where I do get anxious, because now I have to trust that America will make the right choice. And I don't know what America's gonna do. It's almost part of why we like this country. American exceptionalism allows us to also be stupid and make the worst decision and to shoot ourselves in the foot and have 10 cheeseburgers and then go drive a car and then get out of jail and then elect a convict for president.
In Oklahoma, it was time out to celebrate for Noongatanga, Kotahitanga. It's needed. The countdown to the election has begun, and the world is watching.